Hello and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to our event this evening at the newly named Echo Park Speedway, formerly, of course, Atlanta Motor Speedway, and recently reconfigured as well. We're in for quite an event tonight, some plate racing action on a much tighter track. Joining me, as always, is Tom Richter.
Hey, Cody. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Glad to be back up here in the Friggy Diggy Racing League for tonight's event from Echo Park Speedway. Cody, new name for this track, but this track is going to present the same challenges that the old Atlanta Motor Speedway that once did. We're going to see a lot of bump draft, and then unlike Daytona and Talladega, Cody, this track is a lot more narrow and a lot more unforgiving.
That it is. That is a really good point. And another thing that was brought to my attention a little bit earlier today is that as of iRacing officially, they've made pitting on this track a little bit more akin to how you might see it in the real world out there. And that is going to be a much bigger challenge for these drivers tonight. You can't drive it all the way around turns 3 and 4 at speed and pull off like you would at any other mile-and-a-half track. Instead, you've got to enter at the end of the back straightaway going into 3 and keep it pinned down to the apron without crossing up onto the track. Not to mention, you're going to have the entire pack flying by you just mere inches away right outside of that said apron.
That's easy enough to do, right, Cody?
Yeah,
Um, it's certainly going to pose a challenge. It's the first time I'm going to be seeing it implemented into the iRacing software. But as we take a look, tonight's race scheduled for 130 laps out here tonight. 3 stages going to make up that race. Lap number 35, lap number 70, and then 130 is our conclusion of tonight's event from Echo Park Speedway.
I think we're in for a pretty good one. 130 laps around this tight super speedway style racetrack. I'm going to be really curious to kind of see how the intensity ramps up as we've gotten most of the way through the season here. We've, of course, got a full 36 race schedule, but we're kind of into the summer stretch. Things are starting to kind of settle in. Everyone kind of knows their speed, where they're at, and what they can expect. But for some of those drivers who are looking for a spark in the right direction to get some momentum on their side, this might be the perfect kind of track for them to turn things around and really get going, get that momentum kicked off before the playoffs start in not too far off in the future.
Not too far off in the future, Cody, and we're wrapping up our open practice out here. So we're going to step away for just a second. We're going to throw it trackside for the pre-race ceremonies, and we're going to be back to bring you the full qualifying.
All right, we are just kicking on over to qualifying for our race here in Echo Park. Tom, I've got a question for you. Who do you have your eye on going into qualifying specifically for tonight's race?
Qualifying specifically for tonight's race, Cody, I think we're going to be taking a look. One of the first cars that's coming out here is Roy Hill III. Roy ran really good last week at Pocono. Didn't get quite the breaks that he was trying to get, and ultimately wound up kind of coming home with, I believe he had a top 5 out there. But I'm going to be keeping my eye on the 77 of Roy Hill.
All right, I like it, especially after coming into this week after a race where, if things had gone just slightly different, it could have been a much different outcome. You kind of get close, you kind of flirt a little bit with the different strategies and the different outcomes and how you might play through a race. And I think usually, in my experience, coming off of a week like that, it does nothing but make you a little hungrier and kind of give you that extra little pep in your step to go out there and kind of get what you feel like the result you feel like you lost out on.
Yeah, absolutely, Cody. And Roy already beginning his first lap out here. We're going to see probably a little bit different sort of qualifying than we would usually see at like Daytona, Talladega. You see Roy working on his first lap. Typically at Daytona, Talladega, you would be right up against the wall trying to get that car wound up as much as you possibly can. Roy right down on that red and white line coming through turns 3 and 4 across the line for the first time. And yeah, he is a little over a second and a half behind, but he's going to keep that bottom line for turns 1 and 2 here.
He absolutely is. He's taking an interesting approach, the way he's kind of arcing off of the corners on exit, and he's shooting all the way up to the wall on entry. I haven't driven this track too often in the next gen car, so I can't speak as to what might work the best, but it'll be interesting to see if he can keep it off of the wall. That was real close. What kind of time he's going to bring it in on the money lap right here. Across the line for Hill, and it's a second. 1.3 seconds off the pace, so something to figure out for Hill, unless he was kind of sandbagging a little bit because he didn't want to be in the fray so early on.
Yep. Kendall Paul, strong run last week at Pocono Raceway. The tricky triangle comes out here. He's going to be completing his second lap out here. See 171, 172 miles an hour across the start-finish line. Where does that put him? That puts him to the top of the board there, Cody.
Yeah, absolutely, by 300ths of a second over Brad Holmes in second place. And one thing I like out of the 78 was cutting the apron right there. You can absolutely get away with doing that in qualifying. You cut so much of the track out by doing that, and I think that might be a big difference maker in some of the people who are up front versus, a couple positions back.
Yeah, and we just saw Chris Rose come across, complete his second lap. Chris is good enough for 7th on the board right now. Evans Beach working on his second lap. Working down the backstretch here, following the 903, new driver to the Friggy Diggy Racing League.
All right, new driver. Let's see what Evans Beach can do off of turn 4 and coming to the line. Chooses not really to cut the apron all that much, and wow, jumps all the way up to P1 by 1/100th of a second over Chris Lawrence in second place. Great showing from the 903 as a new driver to the league.
So here's something that's going to be fun to watch, Cody, throughout the course of tonight's 130-lap event. I spoke with Race Control earlier tonight, and they said that apron off limits. Don't touch it. I guess you get what you can get at in qualifying, but in the race, all 4 tires do have to be above that red and white line down there, both on the backstretch and the front stretch. So we'll see. It may get hairy a couple of times.
Oh, absolutely. You say that at a track as narrow and as tight as the new Atlanta or Echo Park Speedway is, and that sounds like a recipe for disaster, but in all of the best ways. If it's you or I watching from the booth above, I'm glad I'm not behind the wheel.
It's a whole lot easier to be sitting up here. Is Dustin McMurray still working? And Dustin McMurray still working his second lap out here. First time by was 9th on the board, almost 0.8 of a second off. See what he's able to do as he comes through. Complete lap number 2 for the 906.
New
to
P1?
the top there. Yep.
Absolutely. 1/100th of a second. Again, how many times have we seen that gap? And the 906 and the 903 on the front row. Something about the numbers in the 900s tonight.
Well, with just 7 seconds remaining out here in open qualifying, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say that Dustin McMurray is going to be taking the pole out here tonight as we get set to go racing for 130 laps. Cody, what do you say, Cody? You want to do this on a Wednesday night?
Yeah, I think this is a great way to spend a Wednesday evening.
All right, well, we're going to have your qualifying results up here. Starting on the front row is Dustin McMurray and Evans Beach. The second row is going to be made up of Chris Lawrence, Kendall Paul, and the top 5 is rounded out by Brad Holmes.
In sixth place, it's going to be Paxton Antrim. We've got Gary Miller coming in seventh. Daniel Scruggs starting in eighth. Chris Rose, ninth. And Roy Hill the third, rounding out our top 10.
And starting shotgun on the field out here tonight. Did not elect to take a qualifying time out here tonight. Justin Osterman. Also another really strong performer last week at Pocono. Got caught up towards the end of the race with, I believe it was a bad pit stop. But keep an eye out for that 54. If he runs here tonight like he did last week at Pocono, he's going to be a contender.
Absolutely, and that is an interesting strategy, not taking a time here. I'm going to assume that it wasn't missing qualifying and that it was just a choice to do so. But with a field that is 11 cars strong, I'm curious about the strategy of holding back when, at the end of the day, it's 11 cars, you're not behind too bad of a hornet's nest. Let's say worst case scenario, you might get 3 rows of 3 deep, but there's a lot worse out there in fields that might have 30 or so. So the strategy to hang back, personally, I wouldn't choose it, but at the end of the day, it could work out pretty good, and there's a chance I don't know what I'm talking about.
As the field makes their way 2 by 2 by 2 down the backstretch here behind the iRacing.com pace car. We are almost set to go racing. Lights are off the iRacing.com pace car. And we're going to be going green flag racing this time by. See those segments down there on the apron? That's their little scoring loops that they got down there. You're not able to speed in those. I do believe pit speed is probably going to be, what were we going to say, probably about 45, maybe 55 down there.
That sounds about right. Something to keep an eye on all night long, see if we get any speeding penalties. But here we come into the Echo Park restart zone for the start of the race. The green flag is out, and we are underway.
Underway, green flag racing for the first time out here tonight underneath the guidance of Evans Beach and Dustin McMurray. They head down into turn number 1 side by side, Cody.
Looks like that bottom line is formed up significantly better than that top line. However, don't count out that top line yet. Looks like there's 4 cars fully committed to it. Perhaps make it 5, depending on what we see out of Chris Rose back there once he gets kind of caught up and closes that gap. But that bottom line, they have fully eased ahead of that top line, and that's actually going to kill any of their momentum that they had going on right now, as we see the 903 of Evans Beach lead at the conclusion of lap number 1.
And they're coming through. They're snaking their way through down into turn number 1. Top 5, top 6 cars have kind of single filed out a little bit, but then you got a row of 3, maybe 4 cars trying to make lane number 2 work on the backstretch here. Everybody's trying to poke out. Remember, Cody, you're only going to get, when it comes to air and temperatures and overheating, probably only going to get like maybe 2 laps, maybe 3 here at Echo Park Speedway before you starts overheating. You need some air, and there's contact in the back. Brad Holmes going to go around Cody.
Brad Holmes and who else was that? It looked like the 23 Chris Rose.
That is the familiar face of 23 of Chris Rose. Goes around. We'll see if we can't take a closer look, see what happened. But before we do that, see if there's any damage on the 0-0. We'll take a look at the 23 as well. But look like contact just coming through the danger zone of this track, Cody, the little dog leg on the front stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I wanna throw in there real quick, and you didn't have the chance to mention it before trouble happened, was that it looked like everybody was pretty antsy and pretty unsure about how they wanted to be running, which line they wanted to be in, and who they wanted around them. And I think that might have just been caused from those early race jitters.
We're taking a look here, see the 23 and the silver Ford Mustang behind Brad Holmes in that green and yellow.
Yeah, it looks
Double zeros, see what happens here.
It looks like Chris Rose came in there with a head full of steam, a lot more momentum, and you can see the front right kind of crinkle in on the 23 just a bit there. And I think what Brad was doing was just kind of riding in line. He might have been easing off the gas just a little bit, not expecting somebody to make an aggressive move like that so early on, but I think the 23 just had enough momentum. He saw the gap, and he wanted to go ahead and fill it.
Well, we'll take another look here. Another slow-mo replay from Chris Rose and see what he sees coming out of turn number 4. He sees the 0-0 slide up a little bit, and you see a little bit of daylight down there, but that daylight's going to quickly close.
That's right, and one thing to remember is that the apron is supposed to be off limits. So right here, when it gets tight, when you got to cut through the tri-oval, the 0-0's trying to kind of make that arc in a nice way. You don't want to have to yank the wheel at each of those points, if you will, and I think that's just a result of running really tightly together side by side through the tri-oval the way it's shaped here in Echo Park and not being able to use the apron like you would at any other track, or, you know, at Daytona Talladega you get a tri-oval that's much better in terms of the curvature. You don't have to worry about that kind of thing. I think that right there, that is an Echo Park Speedway classic.
A couple of cars came down on pit road that time by. Brad Holmes came down for a set of tires. Chris Rose came down. Paxton Antrim also made a visit down on pit road as well. Probably just getting that right front looked at on the 23.
It'll be interesting to see if Chris Rose can get that damage fixed, assuming it's not all that much, and get back into the fray without taking too much of a hit here tonight, because I think that 23 car, when all is said and done, as long as he keeps it in one piece, is going to have a pretty good shot tonight.
You and I are familiar with some drivers in the field out here, Cody. We're familiar with Brad Holmes. We're familiar with Chris Rose. So a couple of faces that we're familiar with. And then there's the unknown, right? Not only just of the drafting tracks of Daytona, Talladega, and Echo Park Speedway, but also just seeing who gets their way up there. Saw the 903 and the 906 kind of start to work together in the beginning portions of that run. Couple of cars trying to make their own lane and trying to come through on their own. So we'll see how these drivers play after 30 laps, which is our first stage.
Absolutely. I think who chooses to work with who is going to be an interesting kind of story to follow all throughout the evening. Keeping my eyes on the 10 car starting in third place. We got Chris Lawrence just hanging back there. I think when you're at a drafting track like this, Atlanta, Daytona, Talladega, being that car on the second row, whether you're third, whether you're fourth, I think both are kind of sitting in the same boat where it's a pretty nice spot to sit. You're ahead of most of the action, but right ahead of you, you've got the people who are kind of leading the pack, and that can be kind of dangerous in it of itself. It's kind of a little safety net, that third and fourth place spot, where you're just in between the super crazy battle for the lead and the super crazy battle to not be in the middle behind you.
On board with the iRacing.com pace car, a unique view as they go into turn number 3 under the first caution of the evening. We're about set to go racing. They're side by side behind them here, Cody. We're about set to go racing once again.
I'll tell you what, Tom, I wish I could hold a wheel as steady as our pace car driver here tonight. I would never wear a tire, no matter how hard I drove. That's crazy.
Pace car down and away underneath the control of the front row. Evans Beach, Dustin McMurray going to be bringing us to the green flag for the second time out here tonight. A little bit of tire spin, maybe a little bit unexpected up there up on the front row. A little bit of tire spin. I wasn't having that on the card there, Cody.
Absolutely, and I almost wonder if that second row on back kind of checked up after seeing the crazy reaction out of the 906 from what looked like some tire spin. So everyone playing it a little safe. We're getting a little bit of some blinking out, causing the camera to go crazy off the 906, but everyone's going to kind of get the momentum going again. Into turn 3 we go, and we are nose to tail all throughout.
Third place, Chris Lawrence in line, trying to take a look out and see where he might have some help in his rearview mirror coming through, but at the line for the 8th time this time by. We're going to see Evans Beach, Dustin McMurray, Chris Lawrence, Gary Miller, and Roy Hill III. Roy was my pick before tonight's race. Roy proving me right and having a good run up there right now, up in the top 5.
Absolutely looking to bounce back from what could have been last week in Pocono. Meanwhile, up front, it's the 903, it's the 906. They've got control of the race, and I don't know if the 10 car is too keen on doing anything to change that at the moment. Pretty comfortable riding close to the front, but not all the way up there, not under risk of somebody who might want to come and take the lead and cause some issues from being aggressive. But that 38 jumps out of line or was forced out of line, one of the two. Either way, no help behind him.
No help behind him, and now you got Roy Hill closing the gap from 5th down to 4th and behind the 10 of Chris Lawrence as they enter turn number 3. Roy says, hey, I'll take that spot. And you can already see these cars bouncing around, moving around. It's a super speedway when it comes down to it, right? But it certainly does not handle like one all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing you'll see out of these cars, especially on corner exit, is they almost fly out of the exit in not in a good sense. The way you have to yank the wheel on exit, how sharp it gets. This is only 1.5 miles. The normal plate races are 2.5 miles or 2.6 miles long. This is such an unusual experience to try and drive, especially when you're fully up to speed and you're in the pack. and you've got to manage having people, 2 wide, 3 wide, whatever have you. You got to yank that wheel really hard, and a lot of times that can cause some issues, especially through the tri-oval like we saw earlier on.
You see a second line trying to form up. Chris Lawrence has moved up to the second line, being followed by, I believe that's Justin Osterman in the 54. As the field of 11 races down the backstretch here, trying to make that outside line work here, Cody. And as the run goes on and as the tires begin to wear, that outside line is going to become more and more and more valuable as it goes on. If you're on the bottom lane, you get some cars up on your outside. You need to put more wheel into it, which is going to slow you down and also hurt the tires as well. So do think that we will see some cars start to migrate up to the middle and the top line as the run goes along. We get some green flag laps here.
Absolutely, and we see a couple of drivers trying to make that top line work here or there before we kind of get to that point on the tires. The problem is there's just not enough people willing to try and make that high side work early on in the run here. As we see, very close moment between the 77 and the 906. 77 is going to have to jump out to his outside, and we've got a battle for second place.
Second place, Roy Hill goes up to the top side. Daniel Scruggs takes a look up into 14th, into fourth. In car number 14 there, excuse me. Yeah, big moment there on the front stretch, and we were kind of talking about that in the pre-race. It's going to get tight. Real estate's going to get expensive coming through the front stretch, and we've seen that multiple times already tonight.
And nearly 3 wide with the 77 going to the outside of the 14 car. We are dicey as you can be. It feels like it's lap 120 right now with how everyone's racing, with the exception of those top two who are not having any part of it. But we are 2 wide for third place right here. And who is this? Here we have the 54 entering the picture for the first time tonight.
Cody, I was going to ask if you would roll your eyes at me if I said it's dicier than a game of Yahtzee as they come through turn three.
Yeah.
We'll just leave that one alone. They're coming through, still up in the front, 14 laps down, 14 laps away. Evans Beach and Dustin McMurray still leading from the front row.
Maybe not for too long, because that 00 is back with a vengeance. Got caught up in that first caution here tonight. Looks like the damage isn't all that bad at all, and Brad Holmes wants to make a statement. Going to get help from the 54 down the backstretch. We got 3 cars nose to tail up there. We'll see if the High Line can actually make some work now.
Yeah, Brad was involved in that earlier incident back on lap number 1, or back on lap number 2 or 3. Almost contact, definitely contact.
Oh, there goes the 10. Yep, there it is.
On the front stretch here, big wreck, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 cars involved, Cody.
Yeah,
Brad Holmes. I do believe we're going to see some damage out of that. The 10 of Chris Lawrence involved in that. Gary Miller, Brad Holmes involved in that. There's the pace car. Who else is involved in this here? Brad Holmes getting it going in the right direction again.
Chris Lawrence and the 10 involved. I think the 77 of Roy Hill, the third. There was a little bit of a domino effect, one car into another, and I from what I saw there, we'll take a look at the replay. But you see on the front end of Brad Holmes' car there, Brad Holmes took a nose first hit into the outside wall, and that is sure to leave a mark. Looks like the 77.
See the 14 come up a little bit. He gets up into the outside, but the contact between the 00 and is that the 77? That is Roy. You see the 10 going around the 00, Brad Holmes. You see the 38 of Gary going around up there, and a bunch of cars with some damage. We'll take another look, see what some of these drivers saw before they get on pit road out here. Riding on board with Gary Miller in the 38 Ford Mustang. Sees some things starting to happen up in front of him, and well, you kind of run out of space up here in contact with the 77.
Wrong place, wrong time, nowhere to go when they're just getting a little too dicey in front of you. And hate to see that, but that's also the kind of thing that I feel like we see all too often at drafting races and plate tracks, where all it takes is one little move, one little nudge, and you never know what's going to happen off of that. All of a sudden, it's 1 car into 2 cars into 3 cars into 4 cars. It's so easy for it to kind of stack up and pile on, and to catch so many other people in even the slightest of incidents. So we'll see how the affected drivers can manage through the rest of the race. If they can get their damage repaired, some will have a better shot than others. I think the 00 took a pretty big hit and I want to say it was the 10 car. I could be mistaken on that, but somebody took a hit that I winced at when I saw them go into that outside wall after they were spinning. So we'll see how everything shakes out at the end of this one. But if you're the 903, if you're the 906, you're feeling pretty good about the fact that you've been in control of this race so far, and a lot of the people who were being aggressive trying to come up towards the lead just got themselves involved in a big incident right there. If you're the two up front, you're probably sitting real pretty right now.
Yep, and you can still see a couple of cars down there on the bottom of the screen, cars that are on pit road. Brad Holmes, Gary Miller, Chris Lawrence. So based on those times that we see down there, doesn't seem like they're taking their fast repair, because they do have a fast repair that they can use for tonight's race.
Yeah, and it's definitely a strategy that we'll see employed, and I would probably employ myself. If I've got a fast repair in my pocket and I get involved in a wreck early, unless it's, terminal damage, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to wait until we're kind of in the last 20% of the race, and I feel like it's a good opportunity to get that reset, and you've kind of gotten through all of the potential chaos for the most part, and it's go time.
Well, and then there's also the part, Cody. Right? They know that there's going to be another caution coming on lap number 30, because that's the end of our first stage. So they don't necessarily need to get up there and lead and win the stage, right? They just need to stay on the lead lap for the next 10 laps.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct, and it'll come down to how much damage you got and if you think you can manage it. Sometimes it's worse than others. If it's aero damage, you might have a pretty decent shot, but if that steering wheel is 90 degrees to the right, it's going to be a struggle to keep it going long enough to stay in the lead lap. So we'll see how it shakes out, but hopefully those drivers involved in that last incident can keep themselves from getting too buried in the lap count and keep themselves in with a shot.
Well, once again, Cody, let's try this for the third time out here tonight, as the iRacing pace car gets set once again to make its way out of the way. But once again, the front pack being led by Evans Beach, Dustin McMurray, Daniel Scruggs, Kendall Paul, and Justin Osterman currently your top 5.
All right, out of turn 4 we go. Pace car is going to peel off, and same old story as it has been all through the night. The 903, the 906 into the restart zone and hammer down. This time it looks like the field gets a much better restart. Everyone's staying a lot closer together. There's only 2 cars left on the outside already. Make it 1, make it none. Everyone's single file into turns 1 and 2.
As these cars come up to speed, 5 gears strong through turns 1 and 2. 2 cars still down on pit road. Roy Hill and Chris Lawrence. Roy Hill just now coming off of pit road. Chris Lawrence still on pit road. Roy, couple laps down, but with the stage caution here, we'll see how it pans out. But drivers coming to the end of stage number 1 here in about 9 laps.
And one thing I've noticed, Tom, is the amount of times that the 906 has had to check up to not get into the 903. He'll either get a little bit to the right, maybe a little bit to the left, and have those huge runs and have to kind of check himself up. And also the blinking, like we just saw right there. But it'll be interesting to see if the Progressive Toyota can keep that nose off of the 903 in front. I'm sure he's trying his best to do so, but something to keep an eye on for sure, because these cars are all over the place. They're a handful.
You can see the handful that Kendall Paul has right now as he goes down. He's going to take 3rd place away from Daniel Scruggs. Here on lap number 22 from the Echo Park Speedway. Coming down the backstretch here, still being led by Evans Beach and Dustin Murray.
That's right, we've got the 78 of Kendall Paul in 3rd place. We'll see if that 78 chooses to try and form any kind of run on the top 2, or if it's just time to ride and get closer to the stage before you make that move. Tom, if you ask me, I'm making my move for the stage win with probably 2 laps to go. I want enough time to kind of really get a run going, really play around with the momentum, and not leave it till too late, because you never know what'll happen when everyone's coming off a turn 4 to the line and you might not have any help behind you.
Well, you see, that's the difference, Cody. I don't usually win stages, so I don't really know when to go, but I can tell you what I have seen kind of emerge over the course of this race, and is that I always see the 14 being one of the first ones to jump up. He was up there just a lap ago, now down on the bottom. Trying to get through Gary Miller coming through, but have seen the 14 try to lead the line multiple times. Hasn't always had the help. to move forward. But I think if you're going to see anybody jump up, it might be the 14.
Absolutely. We're going to have a select few drivers who are going to be more on the aggressive end, more willing to make these moves, and we're going to have other drivers who are a little more cautious and are going to play it a little more safe. But between the 14, the 23, and once we see a better conditioned car out of the 00, I think those three are going to be more of the aggressors if I had to point 3 out or so. And I think what we're seeing out of that 78 right now is just biding some time. Likes that he's in 3rd place. It's a really good spot to be, especially if you've got these two in front of you who work so well together. That 78 is going to be in a good spot to make a move at his choosing. It'll just be down to whoever helps him, if anyone.
And something I saw, unlike maybe anybody else that we've seen in the field there, Cody, is that on the backstretch they had contact. They were connecting down the backstretch. They were pushing down the backstretch. And that's going to be hard to overcome when you've got two cars that are working really well together up towards the front of the field.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I think we've seen better tandem drafting out of the 2 leaders than we have out of any of the other cars in the field. It's a lot of people getting jumpy, getting antsy. The 78 goes to the inside.
Big look down to the inside for Kendall Paul in the 78 machine. He's going to get out of it, give that spot back. Again, Race Control did tell us earlier that you cannot go down below and advance your position on the underneath the apron. So no harm, no foul. Goes down there to avoid some contact and comes back up, gives the spot back, and we carry on.
That's absolutely right. As the 77 car is going to go another lap down through the middle of the tri-oval, this might get a little interesting, might get a little dicey. Looks like the fact that everyone's single file is going to help out in that regard, but really close moment with the 78 just a lap ago going through the tri-oval and into turn 1. They all got it going, didn't need another wreck already. We've got that stage coming up.
Stage coming up just here in 2 laps to go in stage number 1 as we continue to work our way through this 130 lap event out here tonight. 2 cautions in the earlier stage out here, but Evan's Beach, I believe, is I don't have the lap counter, but I believe Evan has probably been out front for almost all of them.
Yeah, I want to venture to say that every single lap has been led by that 903 car, and we'll see if the final one, if the stage win will be as well. As we go down the backstretch, 2 laps to go, coming to the line through 3 and 4 this time. It's going to mark 1 to go. We're going to see who makes their move and when. That 78's already looking for some clean air.
Coming out turn number 4 to Barney the Flagman this time by. Contact on the front stretch here. We're going to stay green for the final time out here. And this is the first time we've seen the 78 make his way through the 903, the 906. A little bit of distance between those two now. How did they get reconnected on this backstretch here?
We've got the 54 on the bottom with the 14 behind. A couple aggressive drivers are going to push the 906 out of the picture. Can the 78 get there through 3 and 4 for the final time coming to the stage? There's no help behind. The 54 can't get there. The 78's looking. He's not going to have anything for the 903 at the line. Evans Beach, stage 1 winner.
Stage 1 winner, and you see the 906 drop from 2nd on that lap all the way down to currently 6th on the board and still losing positions. So we're still waiting to see the stage. But yeah, that. Oh, you know what, Cody? No, I'm wrong. It's 35. We've been saying 30 all night.
Yeah, I'm going off of what you're saying, Tom.
I told you before it was 35, and you know, nobody's correcting me. So
that's right. That's right. It's all right. It's all right. We'll have a talk with production about it. Not to worry. Now, that does make it interesting, though. They've shuffled out the 906 with about 5 laps to go in the stage, and that is going to put the 903 on an island. I think that was really smart by those drivers running 2nd, 3rd, 4th to get those two breaking up, give themselves a better shot, really make it more of a free-for-all here. And I think it could go to any of these top 4. Maybe even someone further back, but if you're in this top 4 group right now, it's a 1v1v1v1, if you ask me, and that's a pretty fun situation coming to the end of the stage.
Well, Cody, don't think these drivers weren't taking notes the first 33 laps that we've seen out here. They've seen the 903, the 906 work together for the first 30 laps of the race. They finally got a little bit of distance between those two. If I'm, say, Kendall Paul, if I'm Justin Osserman, if I'm Daniel Scruggs, I'm saying, all right, the 3 of us now, we need to work together the way they were doing the first 30 laps.
Yeah, absolutely. You are using all of stage 1, and I would even say all of stage 2 to really figure out who your friends are and who you don't want to be around at a drafting track like this. And It'll all be valuable information for later. We'll see who goes with who at the end of stage 1, because I think that could also make a difference as to later in the race who wants to work with who and who's not gonna, who might leave someone out to hang, you know, out to dry through turns 3 and 4 here. Though we're gonna come to the line. It's gonna be 1 to go. We'll see if the 903 can hold on.
At the line, the 78's going to take a big look to the outside for the first time out here tonight. Battle for the lead. Kendall Paul trying to get a run to the outside. He's got a push from Justin Osterman. Daniel Scruggs closing up on the back of the 903 of Evans Beach, trying to come through and take the stage win.
We have got 2x2 into turns 3 and 4. The 903 is going to get clear off of the front bumper of the 14, and that might be enough as the 78 and the 14 are side by side. The 903 goes to throw the block. They're 3 wide behind, but Evans Beach does indeed hold on to get stage number 1, and it looks like the 78 of Kendall Paul will come home second, Justin Osterman in third.
That was a pretty close little run down there to the yellow flag for stage number 1 conclusion. See if we can't take one more look at it before everybody comes down on pit road and see that finish once again. See the 903 of Evans Beach coming through there. Kendall Paul trying to make the outside line work, just wasn't able to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I've noticed, Tom, is the amount of apron usage in stage 1. We're gonna see if that comes into play with any penalties mid-race or post-race or anything like that. But operating under the assumption that the apron's off limits, it's been really interesting to see the amount of times cars have dived down there. So whatever the case, if you're the 903, you're feeling real happy about the fact that you were still able to hold on and win that stage despite having your drafting partner take it away from you with 5 laps to go in that run.
Field catches behind the iRacing.com pace car, and for the first time tonight, I believe we're going to be seeing everybody come down on pit road. They did not enter on the backstretch here, so I'm not sure if they only need, in this just being transparent, I don't know if they need to use the backstretch on both green and yellow, or if it's just green, but I guess we'll find out together.
Yeah, that we will, as everyone's caught up nose to tail right here. We've got an interesting situation in that the 21 car is 1 lap down, going to get the lucky dog right here, past the field on the outside. That's going to give us another car on the lead lap, another car into the conversation, and boy, do I love an Interstate Batteries paint scheme, if I do say so myself, Tom. So I'll be pulling for Paxton in the 21 car.
Who was your so the Interstate Batteries car has seen a lot of variations throughout the years. What is your favorite variation of the Interstate paint scheme?
I want to say it's probably the 2003 era. I've driven an inspired scheme that was kind of off of that era. I just loved how spiky it got, I guess is the best way to word it. It had those spikes, it had that flare, it had that kind of in your face appearance about it, and just, I don't know, the colors with it as well, everything about it. I think it was just 2003 era. That was the best one for me.
I think so. The driver that got me into, and we'll get back to the broadcast, but the driver that got me into racing was Bobby Labonte. So it's gonna pain me to say this, but I think my favorite is the original Dale Jarrett with the very straight lines back in like 93, 94.
I see. Okay, I can respect that as well. Yeah, I think that Interstate Battery scheme, it's up there for my favorite all time. But here we have it with the whole field on pit road. The 903 has got quite a gap to the rest of the field. And something interesting we saw here is most of the field enter at the back of the entrance at turn 3. That 78 car waited until off at turn 4.
It might have been a little bit of confusion, and that's why you're seeing the gaps on pit road as to where they needed to enter. I mean, we had confusion up here. We came in tonight and we said, this is the first time we're seeing this. This is probably the first time the drivers are seeing it, right? So maybe a little bit of confusion as to where they had to enter under a yellow flag condition. We know on a green flag they need to use the backstretch, but watching the race out of pit road, the 903 is going to just barely beat the 78 out, and the 906 might be on 2 tires there, but he's going to come out third.
He absolutely is. That's going to be a lot of track position made up. It is a smaller field, but track position is track position at the end of the day, and that is going to put that 906 on the second row and right behind that 903.
See the shadows starting to get a little bit longer here from Echo Park Speedway. Lights about to turn on as the field continues to make their way through. Lights are off. Lights are off on the pace car, so I guess we're going green flag racing this time. Oh no, they're back on.
Yeah,
They were off.
Instead of yellow. That does seem crazy to me, Tom, that iRacing would be ready to have them go green the same lap they get out of the pits.
Yeah, the field was certainly not ready there, so race control making the appropriate decision to extend that caution there and give us one more lap underneath the yellow flag condition. Now let's take a look and see if the 78 here, I see the 78 kind of out of line a little bit, might just be adjusting some settings or what have you in that 78 machine, but thought maybe we would have seen a penalty for improper pit entry, but that doesn't appear to be the case here as he's holding in third place.
I'll tell you what, Tom, one thing I'm keeping my eye on is the fact that the 23 and the 77 are right behind second place, and they're in front of third place. So I don't know what's going on with them potentially getting a wave around or needing to let the field by, but the 23 and the 77, those guys are not on the lead lap currently as we pace around. So whatever the case might be, that might be what race control is trying to figure out as we pace around here.
Keeping an eye right now on Chris Rose, involved in an earlier incident out here tonight on lap number 3 or 4. Still up there, and I believe on the 1 to go, if he does not get waved around, you're going to see the 23 drop back a little bit, but we'll see as the pace car comes around, see how this is handled by iRacing.
Green flag, green flag.
Oh, we've got the green flag here with the lap cars in the mix.
We're back to green flag racing out here, Cody. Interesting restart here. Only one car on the outside. That was the 906 of Dustin McMurray. So I'm a little perplexed at that restart.
Yeah, I tell you what, I think that was the let iRacing do as it will and follow its instructions special. As we have all seen, any of us who have raced on the sim, sometimes you just gotta listen to what it's telling you to do. And this is going to give Chris Rose an opportunity to try and get a nose out front and get one of those laps back the hard way. Chris Rose currently sitting, well, looks to be about 6 laps down, 5 to 6 laps down at the moment. And I guess we'll see between 5 and 6 if he can get up there ahead of the 903. And if you're the 903, it might not be the worst thing in the world to have somebody in front of you that you can kind of save fuel off of, especially somebody who's not even for position.
Yeah, so you figure we just ran 35 laps. Most of the cars made their first pit stop on lap number 38 when they came through the first time. Now we're going to lap number 70, so one would imagine that they should be good on fuel, so there shouldn't be a whole lot of fuel saving, right? But having that buffer in between you and the next car for position is also sometimes a benefit, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the 906 maybe push the issue here a little bit more than expected. To kind of get that buffer with Chris Rose and Kendall Paul and try to put a car in between those two.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tom, you said the term pushing the issue, and nobody pushes the issue better or more frequently than that 23 car out of people I've raced around, and we're seeing that now as he jumps out of line. He wasn't ready to sit behind the leader there. That 23 car wants to get ahead of everyone, wants to get that lap back in case of a caution, because he's got 6 to go. He's got 6 laps to try and figure out. He's kind of in a hole, so a 23 will be aggressive.
He's going the wrong way there. He jumped out of line and didn't have anybody go with him, but now you got Gary Miller trying to, Gary Miller trying to work the top side line. Daniel Scruggs trying to come through almost 3 wide on the front stretch there. As,
we did get
4 cars.
We did get a little bit of contact on the front stretch between the 14 and the 38, trying to navigate through the trio. That 14 shot up quite a bit. Everyone kept it straight, though. That could have been a lot worse, as that high line is going nowhere fast, and we are back to single file. But look who it is, the lucky dog on that last caution, the 21 of Paxton Antrim. And oh, we've got caution.
Contact in the back here, Corey, as Chris Rose goes around on the front stretch. And we're going to take a look, but the 23 with damage, and they're still bumping uglies down here. Coming out of turn number 4 between the is that the 14, I want to say?
38, I do believe.
38, correct. Yeah, Gary Miller, excuse me, as they come out of turn number 4, and we're going to take a closer look at that in just a second. But some significant damage, at least on the 23. We'll take a look at the 38 of Gary Miller as well. Now, this is difficult here, right? Because Chris is 6 laps down. Gary's on the lead lap here. We'll see exactly what that replay shows. But if I'm in the 38 right now, probably not too thrilled with that caution.
No, absolutely not, given you were racing on the lead lap and that 23 car is 6 laps down. But we'll have to see the replay. We'll have to see what for sure happened is the 00, the 78. And I can't quite see that third car very well, but 3 cars pull down onto the pit lane and probably trying to get a little bit more damage fixed, especially if they haven't taken that quick repair just yet.
Cars making their way down onto pit road here. We'll take a look, see if we can't find out exactly what happened between the 23 and it looks like a 3 wide situation gone bad. We'll take one more closer look at it. But entering turn number 3, Cody, that's a tough place to be.
That is a very tough place to be. Honestly, if you ask me, Tom, I think that wreck right there, that stems from the 54 being a little antsy on putting a nose where it's pretty dangerous to do so. Just entering the corner, everyone's kind of running single file. It's not like the end of the race or the end of a stage or anything like that. So a car slightly drifts up, you know that car is going to be inside of somebody else and you stick a nose down there. You've got to kind of be aware of the fact that that's going to stick it 3 wide and that top car is only in the middle line. And, you know, there's only so much space to go on the track before you get on the apron. But I think the 54 just got a little ahead of himself with sticking his nose into that pocket right there.
Yeah, nobody really moved here, Cody, right? Everybody held their line. It's like when you're merging on the interstate. One lane ends, and all of a sudden somebody's not paying attention, and somebody's got to get over at the last second. Nobody was really out of line there, but lanes just kind of converged into one entering the corner.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. It's not like anyone went and changed their line in a bad way. I think that's just a classic situation of give and take and knowing when to let off for the guys in front of you versus when to make that move and when to fill that gap. So those kinds of things happen in racing, and you learn from it, you move on, but we'll see if the 38 can keep in the fight, because that 38 car has been pretty quick all night.
Pace car is deployed for the 4th time out here tonight. 3rd contact caution and 1 stage caution out here. 48 laps down of 130. Cody, been kind of a fun first, call it third of this race almost.
Yeah, it's definitely not been short of action. You know, some people might see an 11 car field at a super speedway and not think twice about it, but I'll tell you what, this has felt like a 30 car field with the amount of things we've had going on and battles to cover, how antsy everyone is. It's been pretty entertaining.
As we get set to go green flag racing, once again, checking out into our YouTube chat box. Hey, throw out a driver you're rooting for. See Jaden checking in there. See Mike Stiverson checking in there. Let us know who you're rooting for, who you're rooting against out here in the Friggy Diggy Racing League tonight on a Wednesday night from Echo Park Speedway.
Well, here we are out of 4, Tom. Once again, pace car is going to pull off as we approach lap number 49, the end of the 4th yellow of the evening,
Green
and
flag,
it is the
green
903 and the 906, a familiar sight. They're going to lead the field to green.
A little bit more organized restart this time by for the front row and the entire field as they come through, and you see the 2nd place of 906, Dustin Murray, try to and does slide down behind the 903 of Evans Beach. Contact in turn 1, Paxton Antrim. He's going to get door checked and slid up into the outside wall almost from Daniel Scruggs in the 14.
That absolutely could have been a lot worse than it was. Good save by the both of them. But one thing I've noticed tonight, Tom, is that 14 car is not a car that you want to be side by side with, whether it's on the front stretch or in the middle of a corner. Someone to keep your eye on. It looks like that 14 car is really hard to handle tonight as we see the 21 car just drop all the way back to those last couple of cars in the back here. Probably decided he didn't want anything to do with what was going on up front as these 4 cars in a line catch our 2 leaders.
Yeah, and I think, Cody, that part of that goes to the handling aspect of Echo Park Speedway. As Daniel Scruggs in the 14, he's going to take a look to the outside of the 906 McMurray. On the exit of turn 4, no help behind him again, but like I said earlier, the first car to jump up, he's got the 23 now up in his rearview mirror trying to push forward.
He absolutely does. Chris Rose just will not bow out of the picture. Gotta respect it, running as hard as he is, even 6 laps down, as those top 2 cars continue to control the race. That 14 car on the outside wants to have a say about it, as we've got the field all bunched up right here. We've got some good quality bump drafting right here to try and shuffle through the field.
You can see just how tight racing it is and the bumps that these drivers are experiencing coming through, especially when they go over that apron and that red and white line on the front stretch. But you can see the grit on the track. And, you know, this track was repaved, was it 3 years ago they repaved this track, and it's already aged so much.
Yeah, that's right. I'll be interested to see over the years, kind of a common sentiment that you might see out of the industry is as the surface of this track ages, it's going to go a little further and further away from the plate style racing. As it becomes a little more abrasive, it's going to become a very interesting experience of very close to full throttle, maybe full throttle if you're single file, but a little bit more off throttle. And as that surface gets older and older, the races here are going to probably become pretty unique, pretty unlike anything we have at any other track.
Big moves from the 23 coming through turns 3 and 4 there. Chris Rose trying to become 5 laps down, but big moves there in turns 3 and 4. Coming across the start-finish line, working lap number 54.
I tell you what, Tom, you'd think Chris Rose paid for all of these broadcasts, the amount of times his name is mentioned, but that's just the driver he is. Always on the spotlight, always making a move. That's why we love him. But up front, they've got the 903, the 906, as has been the case, and that 78 car in 3rd place. We've seen up to this point that Kendall Paul is willing to just ride in line, bide his time, take it nice and easy, and oh, the 906 is going to get hit and into the outside fence. We've got a big wreck.
Yellow flag.
Big wreck as we just switched over to the 903 of Evans Beach. We'll take a closer look, but see the 906, and who is that? It's Justin Osterman in the 54. We'll have to take a closer look at that and see exactly what happened there.
Definitely.
All right, so we're going to back this up a little bit here. Almost contact on the front stretch, but they get away from it. Oh, the 906 gets a little loose, so he came up off the apron. Came up off the apron, and the car kicked right
Absolutely. It almost looked like he just hit a certain bump going over the apron that just completely unsettled the car, was not ready for how it was going to try and land and settle down there, and just could not get it corralled back in. And you know, being 2nd place as you ran ahead of the pack when that happens, you know, you were just along for the ride, and everyone else is just hoping that they're not in the wrong spot at the wrong time like the 54 was. That is a very hard impact, and both of those cars are going to have significant damage. Hopefully in both of their cases they've got that quick repair still to get back into the fight tonight.
And we'll take one more look at it here from the 54, riding behind the point of contact with the 906. See the 78 of Kendall Paul just barely squeaking by. It's one of those wrong place, wrong time, Cody.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel gutted for the 54. You know, in those instances, there is just absolutely nothing you can do. You know, it's one thing if you're the 906 and it gets out of control, but being the person that's just riding their race, riding their line, doesn't put a foot wrong and ends up in the incident, that's always the worst. But we'll see how they can recover from this. One thing is for certain, though, Tom, and it's that Evans Beach and that 903 knows how to control the race and avoid absolutely every last problem that we've had so far.
So we pace around out here, checking out once again into our YouTube chat box. See Corey Sherman checking in, Mike Stuyvesant, Jaden checking in. Let us know who you're rooting for. How's the stream sounding? Everything doing okay. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday night, getting through the week. I tell you what, I cannot wait until Friday. But great way to spend a Wednesday night up here with the drivers of the Frigga-Diggy Racing League from Echo Park Speedway for 130 laps. Race number 18 of their, we may have had just another issue, but race number 18 of their season out here.
Absolutely,
Let's take
halfway
another
point.
look here, Cody.
I'm seeing that pop up as well. Some issues for the 77 car by the looks.
So Roy Hill coming down onto pit road.
Missed the commitment cone.
Missed the commitment cone, and he's going to slide up. No other cars around him. But issues on pit road entry for the 77.
Yeah, looks like he could have been trying to get it woed up, trying to get down there, realized a little too late, tried to give it the wheel all he could, and that just unsettled the car, gets it spun around. But it's a good thing the banking was there, kept him off of the wall, no harm, no foul. A little bit of scrub on those tires, but should be okay for the 77.
That's one of those moments where you're like, oh gosh, I hope nobody saw that.
Yeah,
I've had a
absolutely.
few of those myself.
We might have some words from the 77 post race from Roy Hill III for showing that on the broadcast and covering that as in depth as we did. But you know, it happens. What can you do? All I know is this, Tom. I've definitely wrecked a car under caution before. I think it's a rite of passage on iRacing.
Pretty sure you and I have wrecked each other with a caution before.
Probably. It's probably at Charlotte too.
At some point or another, I'm sure we have our,
Oh yeah.
But lights are off the iRacing.com pace car as the field gets set to go. Once again, still underneath the control of the 903. Kendall Paul to the outside. That's going to be your front row.
It'll be interesting to see a restart here without the 906 in the picture. Of course, still in the race, but back there in what looks to be about 7th place as we run. Green flag is ready to drop. Through the restart zone we go. 903 in control of the race, and Evans Beach leads us off that second row, side by side.
Side by side for row number 2, but row number 1 is one car and one car alone. That is the 903 of Evans Beach. Cody, we kind of lost focus on this. Only 10 laps to go in stage number 2 here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been enough things to keep us distracted from the lap count, and look at this. Where did he come from? The 00 of Brad Holmes going to look to the lead after being caught up in that big wreck earlier in the race. Not able to hold on right there, but has help.
Last week's winner, Brad Holmes, in the the 00 Chevy Camaro. Brad Holmes comes through, tries to jump up and take the lead up on the outside line coming into turn number 1, working lap number 60 of 130 or 60 of 70 of the stage.
I tell you what, Tom.
Starting to fall back a little bit. He's got the 78 in front of him.
I don't know if Brad Holmes has a nickname, but double might be it after that. That rolls off the tongue pretty nice. So you see double coming, you might want to get out of the way. Brad Holmes is looking to make a name for himself here. On top of what he already has, of course, having a fantastic season up to this point. But my eyes are back on, you already know it, I don't need to say his name, that silver car, that 23 car, third in line, 6 laps down. Chris Rose is determined to make a difference, try to get one of those laps back the hard way, get back into this fight, and you got to give it to him. He's not giving up.
And the challenging part here for the 23 is that even if he stays where he's at right now, Roy Hill is only 1 lap down. So the way it works in both iRacing and in NASCAR, so at the time of a caution, the first car a lap down, so in this case the 77, would be eligible for the free pass. So that's probably why you're seeing the 23 push a little bit more, because the 23 is not in a free pass. Even though he's the highest running lap down car, he is not the highest running position lap down car.
That is absolutely correct and a great point. I think if you're Chris Rose, all you can do, especially with a car that's fast enough to be up in the draft, all you can do is try and go up there and get your laps back the hard way, or, wait until you're the only car any amount of laps down, but, you're kind of at the mercy of everyone else. You got to kind of go up there and make it happen. So he's doing all he can, and the 906 again in trouble. Looks like everyone keeps it going. No caution at the moment.
Everybody keeps it going, but it kind of breaks up the front pack from the second pack. Now you've got the top 3 cars, top 2 cars on the lead lap, third car, Chris Rose, a couple of laps down, and then you've got about a second behind, but they're going to be able to close that gap with double back there. That's what we're going to call him. Brad Holmes pushing Daniel Scruggs. I believe they are going to be able, they'll be fine. They'll be able to catch this group of 3 up in front of them.
Absolutely. I would, really interesting to see that 906 get involved in another incident so soon. I wonder if that was just a bad push at the wrong time. I'm glad everyone kept it going and we didn't get a wreck or a caution, as we got to see this stage play out. But now we've got a 6-car breakaway, 5 of those cars on the lead lap, 1 lap car right in the middle, and that is the perfect way to make this a little more interesting.
Coming through this time, but I see 5 laps to go over the stage. High five from Echo Park Speedway for stage number 2. Currently being led by Evans Beach, Kendall Paul in second. Then you got to skip a car, find Daniel Scruggs, your top 3. Big run up on the outside for Daniel Scruggs and Brad Holmes.
And I tell you what, these guys might be able to make an outside line work, especially if that bottom line has, you know, little enough help. We don't have the whole pack right here to just default to that bottom line. We've got 6 cars. I think 2 cars on that outside, if they're connected well enough, could make the difference. And it'll be really interesting to see how everyone plays it right here. Can that 903 hold on and win stage number 2 as well after losing his help?
Lot of moving around as they're going to start to catch a lap car up here. Not sure who that is just yet. We'll see in just a moment who that might be. That looks like that might be. Is that the 54? Justin Osterman going a lap down.
Going another lap down.
Going another lap down, excuse me, yes.
Unfortunate night for the 54, getting caught up in that incident, and that's going to put him 4 laps down now by the looks of it, as the 00 of Brad Holmes, double-double, found his way back up here. I don't know how they caught the leaders, but they did, and we've got more cars in the fray.
About 8 cars up in this front pack up here, as you see Kendall Paul giving the heat, the back bumper massage to Evans Beach as they come through turns 3 and 4 this time by. This time by, we're going to see 3 laps to go over the stage.
All right, big wiggle out of the 21 car back there behind the 14 and getting a push from the 00. Keeps it going, keeps it straight. That 78 car, if I had to guess, he's biding his time. He's waiting for the right moment, for the right run, for the right opportunity. That 903 is sitting pretty right now, but might not be by the end of the stage. Might be upended from the lead for what would be the first time tonight.
So now if we're right on board with Daniel Scruggs right now. You're in a difficult position, right? Because you're behind a lap vehicle, but you're also trying to go for stage wins. You're trying to go for the stage win. So how does he get around the 23 to get to the 78 to possibly get around the 93?
Absolutely. I think one thing that jumps out to the outside, I was going to say one thing to keep in mind with a lap car is that, in my experience, a lap car is always going to be willing to push somebody else if they make a move, because that lap car has not got really anything to lose. They're just going for getting ahead of everyone else, and if they see someone trying to make a move, they're probably going to work with them. But it looks like the opposite has happened right here, and everyone else has made their move on the lap cars. We are on the final lap of stage number 2. Onto the backstretch we go.
Onto the backstretch we go underneath, once again, the control of the 903 of Evans Beach, followed by Kendall Paul, followed by Daniel Scruggs. See what the 78 and the 14 do. On the exit of turn number 2, 78 takes a look high, takes a look low, coming through, and it's going to be the 903 caution prematurely, so maybe a contact caution to end this stage here, Cody.
I'm not entirely sure, but I tell you what, that 903 has looked awful impressive tonight. Newcomer to the league, Evans Beach, is going to sweep the stages tonight at Echo Park Speedway, and that's a way to make a statement when you're new to a league.
Yeah, there's not really much of a better way to make the pace car making his statement on here. But the 903 coming down on pit road after the pit stops. We're going to see if we can't find the root of the caution there and see exactly maybe what brought out that caution a little bit early. But this time by, lot tighter entry on pit road.
That's absolutely right, and I don't think there is a speed limit under caution around the apron right here, as we saw the 78 gas it to pull all the way up to the 903 right there. But right here at that yellow cone, that's going to be where the speed limit's enforced as everyone makes their way onto pit road. And that 78 is real close to that 903. It'll be interesting to see if he's got a shot to beat him on pit exit. We have not seen anybody else in the lead and controlling this race outside of that 903 tonight. And we are we're a little over halfway through, so can anyone do anything about the 903?
Taking a look at the pit exit line here, you're going to see the right side tires up, left side tires up. Brad Holmes comes out. Brad Holmes with a 7.95 pit stop, so that tells me 2 tires on the 00.
Absolutely, 2 tires or no tires, but either way, it ain't 4 tires, and that's a new race leaders. It looks like the 903 is going to be the last car off of pit road. That is not
this is
what I saw coming.
Kind of a development here.
There we go. Total pit lane
All right,
time for
so-
Evans Beach, a minute 3.25.
All right, we're gonna have to figure this out together. Let's see if we can't see if there was a contact caution somewhere out in the field. We're gonna have to kind of click around here and see. Reviewing the early caution that came out to end stage number 2. So far, don't see anything. Might have just been an early caution, Cody.
Yeah, looks like it. Don't think it was caused by anyone. Little itchy trigger finger up in the race control box, perhaps. Whatever the case, and maybe iRacing was just tired of running green. But either way, we are under yellow at the end of stage 2, and I'm seeing a group of people in control of this race that have not been yet. Up to this point, there is no 903, there is no 906 until you get a little bit further in the pack, and that's going to flip this race on its head. We're going to see if some of these guys can put their stamp on this race and start controlling it through the rest of the way.
Couple of cars as the field makes their way to the 1 to go. Roy Hill III making his way out of pit road. He'll catch up to the field. Justin Osterman still sitting on pit road. See if we can see any damage. See a little bit of damage on the right front. See a little bit of crinkle above that right front tire. So probably some damage working on the 54 right there, but we are about ready to go. Racing once more, Cody.
I tell you what, Tom, crinkle is almost always a good thing if we're talking chips, but on a car, you don't want to see that, and that front end of that 54 is not doing very well. Up front, on the front row, we got that 00. We got Brad Holmes, and we got that 78, who has been lurking up at the front. Kendall Paul all night long. That 78 has been in the picture, in the conversation, and seemingly in the right place at the right time. So keep an eye on that 78 through the last stage of the race tonight. We'll see if he can maintain that.
And the 78, Cody, aside from the 903, 906, the 78 has probably been the most consistent car up towards the front of the field all race long, the one that has been consistently there, always there, running in third behind those two as we get the green flag once again for lap number 73. But we'll see what the 00 and the 78 can do, but we are green flag racing once again.
Absolutely, and another car to keep an eye on is that 14 in third place. We know that 14 car of Daniel Scruggs is aggressive. We know he's not afraid to make a move, and he might be thinking now that those two dominant cars are no longer in front of him that he might have a much better shot to try and go up there and make something happen.
Field being led by Brad Holmes and the 00 coming through turns 3 and 4 now. Chasing Holmes right behind him. Got Kendall Paul, Daniel Scruggs, Dustin McMurray. Dustin led the most laps out here tonight so far. Currently finds himself running in the 5th place car. Got Paxton Antrim. We were talking about him earlier. We were saying what a cool paint scheme he's got. But Paxton Antrim currently running up in 4th.
Absolutely. Chris Rose to the inside of the 14. That was almost bad. Chris Rose, of course, still a lap down. Going to get hit by the 14, and down into the infield grass goes the 23 car. I wonder if that was just a little bit of a product of the trioval right here, or if the 14 got upset with the 23 after sticking a nose in right there and being a lap down. Either way, let's take a look at it on the replay.
Take a quick look here as you see the 23 take a look down to the inside of the 14. And yeah, that definitely contact, we'll say it that way, Cody.
Yeah, there's no question about that. That'll be an interesting one. See if that goes anywhere post-race, but for now, that gets lap car out of the picture as we run, and we are nose to tail, about 6 or so cars deep of lead lap cars who are looking to make something happen.
So now, Cody, 77 laps down, 8 cars on the lead lap. Anybody in particular that has kind of shown strength to you in these first 77 laps, maybe quietly, that could be a sleeper as we work our way to lap 130?
Well, I tell you what, Tom, if it's the sleeper pick, I really like that 78, as we were just talking a little bit earlier of Kendall Paul, who's just quietly, consistently been up towards the front, not making flashy moves, just holding on, maintaining that track position, knowing how to, kind of avoid the bad incidents and just keep that nose clean. Keep it chugging along, but not fall too back in the pack. I really like how that 78 has been managing this race. And of course, we've got some really fast drivers. That 00, Brad Holmes, he is going to be quick. He's going to be aggressive. And if he is up there with a car that can do it, you've got to watch out for that 00. And of course, you know, the 903, the 906, the fast guys tonight. But if we're going for a dark horse, I like that 78, who is actually on the high line right now. I'm going to lose a position or two.
I tell you what, Cody, the driver that has quietly crept his way up into contention for the race lead right now is the 21 Paxton Antrim. Rough luck last week at Pocono Raceway. Right now, running in second. Kept the nose clean on the 21 all night. Haven't seen him really involved in a single thing. When things got a little messy, he said, "You guys go right ahead. I'm just gonna back up and I'll be there in a little bit." But the 21 showing some strength right now. Sideways
Oh,
at turn
gets hit
2.
by the 14.
Oh my goodness!
Keeps it off the wall.
He hangs on to it. Great job by the 21. I think Paxton's going to be coming for me for that one.
Yeah, great job by the 21, and I think I wouldn't want to be the PR manager for the 14 at the end of tonight's race, the way this is going. And Brad Holmes up in the lead, now has got the 14 in the rearview mirror. A bit of a gap back down to the 78 in third. We kept it going, we kept it straight, nobody got under the wall, we're still under green, and there's a top 2 breakaway at the moment.
Top 2 breakaways. The 21 got a little bit sideways. He's going to probably lose the draft here on the backstretch. He's going to need a caution to get caught back up here, but now you see the 14 of Daniel Scruggs behind Brad Holmes, trying to make his way up to the race lead. But now everybody kind of just single file. Nobody really up on the outside line as they're going to be catching. I believe that is Justin Osterman.
It is on the high side, that 54 car going another lap down. Brad Holmes in control of this race. It looks like all of our race leaders have gotten themselves nose to tail again. We do have the 77 of Roy Hill III back in the conversation. Roy is back on the lead lap after being buried in the lap count after some early race incidents. That 77 is slowly creeping back into the picture, and at the right time as well, as we are on lap 83 out of 130.
So this is something we haven't talked about tonight, Cody, is fuel. Because we had a caution on lap 35, we had a caution on lap 70. What is our fuel mileage out here tonight? I know I asked you this before, you didn't know then, so I'm hoping you know by now.
Well, I tell you what, it's hard to tell from on the stages, but I tell you what, they've at least got 35 laps based on the stages, so that'll put us at about lap 105, and once we get to there, we're in unknown territory, assuming we run green and we don't get that caution. At that point, it'll be interesting to see how it goes, but if you look at the lap count, we've got 130 total laps, and once we hit that 105 mark, you can absolutely make it. So this is a one-stop race to the end. Just one more pit stop, one more fill it up, and we'll see when everyone chooses to do that. We'll see if any cautions come out to make it a little more interesting, but one pit stop, make it count, especially if it's under green, and that might be the decider on this race. You know, a couple drivers who can figure it out better than the rest, who can stay hooked up and draft themselves a big gap versus keeping the pack all together. So we'll see how it shakes out. It'll be interesting, Tom.
Take a look at the track map up on the bottom right of the screen. See the distance that Paxton Antrim has already lost, and another little 2 or 3 car pack behind him. See the 23 lead in that one, but that's the distance right now as they're at the start-finish line. Coming through 3 and 4, coming out of turn 4 is the 21. So already probably 8-9 seconds for the 21 after being in contention just maybe 5 laps ago.
Yeah, it is unforgiving how quickly you can find yourself out of the pack and just at the mercy of waiting for a caution or waiting for somebody else to find their way towards you so that you have a little bit of draft to get that speed up, not get swallowed up by that pack. But hopefully for the 21, can catch a break and get back into the fray right here, because that 21 car was looking racy, was looking fast once he got up there into the picture.
Take a quick look back here, Cody. Early race dominators, the 903, 906, currently running back in 5th and 6th place. Easy to say that they're just kind of riding and biding their time right now, or could there be more issues brewing now that they're back in traffic, back in dirty air? What do you see?
If you ask me, Tom, I see the fuel situation coming into play, but at the same time, it's not like they have to stretch to make it the one-stop distance. So I think right now what they see is the fact that they're not in control of this lead, and instead they have a couple cars up there that maybe they don't fully trust, at least how they're racing or how they have been racing all night. They might be expecting there to be some kind of contact, some kind of incident, and they're just positioning themselves at the right spot to be able to avoid it. If they were saving fuel, I would probably want to be a little bit closer to that 77 car and just kind of off throttle most of the time. But that gap between that 4th place car and where those two are running tells me that they are probably expecting some sort of incident.
Well, that very well could be. It could also be that we're looking for. We know that they can make at least lap 105. Maybe a little bit later than that. Not entirely sure what they can make. But an unknown of a green flag pit stop, Cody, something that probably none of these drivers have done before, is entering on the back stretch. As we go through, we might be able to catch a glimpse of it, but there's a line on the back stretch where they need to be on or below as they come through the back stretch here. You might see it on the bottom right of your screen. So maybe trying to make some gains on a pit road entry and exit.
Absolutely. I think that's going to be a pretty unique thing, especially here to this track. It's going to be unlike any other green flag pit sequence, and that could absolutely be the difference between somebody who's in the lead of the race losing out on a chance to win it, or somebody who's a little further back just nailing it and all of a sudden finding themselves 5 or 6 positions when it matters the most. As we close in towards pit stops, it's going to be really interesting to see how everyone manages the tricky pit road situation.
So taking a look one more time at Paxton Antrim in the 21 car, about halfway down the backstretch right now. So in just, what was that, maybe 10 laps ago, lost half a lap, and now in danger of going a lap down, 16.5 seconds back off the race leader. The 21 is going to need some help to get back in contention here.
That's absolutely correct. As we're going to get rid of the track map right there, is the sun is almost fully set. The 00 of Brad Holmes in control of this race. He is not going to be able to save hardly any fuel whatsoever, being that front car. Not that the fuel savings will come too far into play, but what it does mean for that 00 is that there is a chance he has to come down on a pit road and nobody else follows him because everyone else is stretching their fuel just a little bit further. If you're Brad Holmes, that's the last thing you want to see, because you want to have at least one other car to draft with on pit exit. That could be all the difference once the cycle goes all the way through.
Coming through turns 3 and 4, the north end of the speedway, a little bit of contact between the 14 and the 77 of Roy Hill. Roy, last time we talked about Roy, he was a lap down, got a free pass on that stage 2 caution, and now running solidly up in third, solidly up in the top 5, in front of the 78 of Kendall Paul, and my pick earlier in the race tonight, running strong.
That's absolutely right. In the right place at the right time. That 14 is getting aggressive. Brad Holmes is going to jump out of the way. That was either from the push. Brad Holmes just didn't want any of that, or decided he wants to try and save some fuel right here. But either way, Brad Holmes in the 77 going to stay side by side for second place. That 14 car is gone.
The 14 car, Daniel Scruggs, for the first time out here tonight, seeing the 14 take the lead. I think the 14 has probably been the most aggressive driver to try to make the moves, try to get the lines running, try to get some help, and try to make a second line work. And finally, we see the 14 of Daniel Scruggs out here. Jaden gave him a little bit of, we almost got a battle for the lead up there, but Jaden gave him a little bit of hard time. He said this 14 can't hold a straight wheel tonight.
That is absolutely correct. We did see that a little bit earlier, and well, so far, like I mentioned earlier, I don't want to be the PR rep for the 14 car. I'll just leave it at that. But I like where that 77 is sitting, as you mentioned just a little bit earlier, your pick from earlier in the race. That 77 car, Roy Hill, the third, not out of it, and very much in the picture as we approach closer and closer to our pit stops. We're going to get that final little bit of sunlight before it fully sets, and that 14 car is looking to control this race through the ever-important final pit stop.
Absolutely, Cody. And if you come out, so the pit stop, obviously it's important, right? But what we might see on this pit stop, and who knows if this will actually happen, but you may see, if we do get a round of green flag pit stops, you may see, as we've got Dustin McMurray and Evans Beach. I thought I saw something.
It looked like it.
Never mind. Hold on. It looked like it. But what I was saying is that you might see this pack break up a little bit, right? If one pack is 2 seconds faster on pit road, if one pack is a second slower on pit road, you may not have a 7-car pack for the final run. So right now, if I'm Evans Beach, if I'm Gary Miller, if I'm Dustin McMurray, I'm trying to make it a point that I want to be up as far front as possible to kind of offset and allow me to make those mistakes on pit road.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Tom. That's how I like to tackle these pit stop sequences on these drafting tracks. I want to be as far up as I can because that's going to give me the best shot to stay in the mix should anything go wrong, or if somebody else just had a better pit sequence, had a better drafting outlap, whatever it might be, right? The further up you are, all it can do is help you, and you do run the risk of, being caught up in the incidents, but my general rule of thumb is that I would rather be ahead of everything at the risk of being in the middle of it rather than be behind everything and be stuck trying to figure it out if it doesn't work out your way.
On board here with the 00 of Brad Holmes. See him come through running 5th gear. Last time by was a 30.694 for the double machine as they come through turns 1 and 2. Following the 77 of Roy Hill, Daniel Scruggs, the race leader. Just kind of listen to his throttle here, Cody. See if we hear any lifting from the 00. Good through 3 and 4. We'll take a look down in turns 1 and 2. If you can get through the corners here without having to lift, that means to tell me that your tires are still there.
That's absolutely right. I think what we're hearing out of the 00 right here is maybe like 80 to 90% throttle at most and dipping down to maybe like a 50% throttle when needed, but we're not hearing a full lift at any point, and that's a good way to run. You don't want to kill those RPMs all that much, even when you're trying to save.
Big move by the 77 of Roy Hill III, trying to make his way. Lone Wolf up on the top sideline, trying to lead the lap, not going to lead that lap as the 14 and the 00. They're going to take the inside line, followed by Kendall Paul in the 78 machine. But big move, almost made it work. The side draft in these next-gen cars and these Gen 7 cars, so strong.
Absolutely. It is pretty ridiculous, especially if you get some really big pack racing going. You watch that outside line go, it's pretty powerful, especially with the side draft that you've got here at your disposal. But we're going to exit off of turn 4. We're going to approach lap number 103.
So something that I find interesting here, Cody, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong about this, but, well, I guess the 21 of Paxton Antrim, he's caught a group of other cars, so safe for now from going a lap down, but actually closing. Take a look at the last time by. So you take a look at Paxton Antrim in the 21 machine, 30.89 versus they're running about the same times up there.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. If I'm in that pack further back, I know I'm not saving any bit of fuel, and I'm just pushing all out. So it could be the difference of the leaders trying to save a little bit and them not. It could also be the difference of the leaders being a lot less organized than they are. We've got those 3 cars at the front pack that are just straggling behind, not really up there adding to the energy of what's going on. And we know the leaders have been side by side here and there, trying to battle it out, trying to get up to the lead, figure it all out. So all that does is benefit those guys who are a little more desperate further back. They're going to be linked to nose to tail. They're not going to care who's ahead of who. They're not going to care about fuel. The only thing they're going to care about is drafting as good as they can, to go as fast as they can, to try and make up as much ground as they can.
Take a look at the, as we struggled to get that one there, but last pit stop for Brad Holmes, Kendall Paul, Roy Hill III, Dustin McMurray, Evans Beach, lap 71 or 72 for this front pack up here. So as we approach 25 laps to go in tonight's race, we are probably rapidly approaching green flag pit stops here.
That's right, 25 laps to go, and these 4 cars at the front of the field, it looks like they've mostly settled out at the moment. That 906 and that 903 car just lingering a little further back, just still biding their time, just still waiting. I'm so curious to see what we will see out of that 906, out of that 903 after being so dominant in the front half of this race. If they're biding their time, if it's something else that we've got going on. A couple lap cars are just holding on to the draft in the back there, a little bit of damage. All they can do is be towed along, and they'll be happy to be towed along rather than falling any more laps down. But up front, that 14 car of Daniel Scruggs in control of this race pretty comfortably at the moment.
You can see the track almost entirely underneath the shade now as the sun begins to set here from Hampton, Georgia. they come through, and we're going to see 23 laps to go right now, led by Daniel Scruggs, Brad Holmes, Kendall Paul. Currently your top 3, rounding out the top 5, Roy Hill the 3rd, and Dustin McMurray inside the top 5. Take a look. Let's go on board with the 77. We kind of did this before with Brad, but let's see if Roy is able to make these corners without lifting.
I tell you what, we definitely could. I could feel the tires on entry right there, the way that car shot up the track. Didn't really get a big lift out of it, but once that car shot up, you kind of got a lift to readjust or just crank that wheel a little bit more. You can see how much wheel input is needed just to try and keep the car from going any higher up on the track, and that is something you're going to see a lot of at this track, especially the longer you go on these runs. Corner entry is just so dangerous. It's so unpredictable. The tires just don't want to stick. The car wants to just push up and hit that wall, and you've got to use the throttle and you've got to use that wheel in a good combination where you don't rely too much on one or the other, because if you do, it's going to hurt you in one way or the other.
Almost a big look for the 77-78 going into turn number 3 at the north end of the Speedway. Almost a little bit of contact there, but the 77 got out of it. Now starting to see a little bit of separation between these top 4 drivers and 5th and 6th place and 7th place of McMurray, Beach, and Miller.
Well, Tom, we are down to 20 laps to go. Pay window is open. It is, it's go time. If you've got anything, if you've been holding anything back, I know we're still sitting on that final pit stop, but now or never.
Now or never, and we're going to see who is the first one to dip down onto pit road as the field of 11 drivers comes through down here, kind of hugging the bottom line on the inside line. The red and white line, remember, can't go down there, can't advance your position below that apron. That's going to be interesting to see, as we've got a couple of cars starting to make their way onto pit road towards the back of the field. That kind of tells me that we may be seeing some lead pit stops here in a moment.
I sure hope so. We've been talking it up for as long as we have, and it'd be a real shame if they could just make it to the end without a pit stop. You know, lo and behold, we don't have the fuel info, but yeah, what's the worst that can happen? We already got one of the stages wrong, so hey, we've already set that bar. But up front, Scruggs in the 14, Holmes in the 00, Paul in the 78, and Hill in the 77. As it has been for the last 10 or so laps, these 4 just nose to tail, waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for the pit stops to cycle out most likely, and waiting to make their move.
So here's another thing that we, you know, they're likely trying to run as long as they possibly can, take as least amount of fuel on pit road. But, you know, if you're at Daytona, if you're at Talladega, you can get away with not taking tires on that final stop. Do you almost have to take 4 tires here with this configuration? Yeah,
it's a really good point that you've got right there, Tom. And my first instinct is, yeah, give me the tires. I know at these plate tracks, especially when you're trying to keep a group together, you're trying to green flag pit and stay in the mix. You almost never take the tires, but it's just such a difference maker here at Echo Park Speedway, especially after a really long run like this. It's one thing if you've run maybe 15, 20 laps, it might be a toss-up. Maybe you get away with 2 tires, but I don't know. Give me all 4 here every single time.
Hey, as we complete these laps out here tonight, if you're enjoying tonight's race, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Check us out. We're going to be here intermittently through the Wednesday night series for the Friggy Diggy Racing League. Next week, they've got the Chicago Street Course, so that's going to be fun. I've actually never driven the Chicago Street Course. Then they go to your favorite place, Sonoma, place out west in California. They go to Sonoma Raceway. Dover, Indianapolis, and Iowa are their next upcoming races.
Yeah, I tell you what, Tom, I was looking at the schedule for the Friggy Diggy Racing League. I'm new around here, jumping up in the booth for tonight's race, and I've never done the Chicago Street Course, but I did see that Sonoma's coming right after it. And I tell you what, Tom,
oh boy,
I wasn't thinking about racing in another league outside of the Cyber Thunder Racing League, but I see Sonoma, and I might be tempted to get in contact with some of the league officials here and see about jumping behind the wheel for that race, because Sonoma, it just calls my name. I just love that road course in a stock car.
I can tell you that road courses do not call my name. Ever.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, myself and the road courses don't really agree, as we've got 13 laps to go out here. Definitely takes a different style of driver to get out there and be consistent and hit those marks lap after lap after lap when you've got 10, 12, 13, 14 corners. We got green flag pit stops coming up here, Cody.
We absolutely do, and it looks like it was an early choice, trying to signal the entire field, try to get as many people coming down as possible. Look at this. The 906, the 903, and the 38 behind are all going to stay out on track. They're going to keep going a little bit. That's going to separate our two packs right here. On to pit road we go. Top three are pretty close, but that 77's got a bit of a gap to the rest.
Bit of a gap to the rest, and now we're going to be keeping an eye on Dustin McMurray and Evans Beach, and this might be the opportunity that the 903 and the 906 have, as they're going to make their way down onto pit road this time. Take a big look, huge run onto the apron for the 903, 92, 95, 96 miles an hour coming through, and they're continuing to gain speed all the way up until this is an open area. They can do whatever they want down here. They just can't go above that white line.
To the line we go. They keep it nice and clean, but I don't know, Tom. To me, it looked like these guys came on just a little too easy compared to the rest.
Well, we're going to be... So you got the track map up here, right? So you got the 906 and crew on pit road right now. You see the 78 leading the charge on the backstretch right now. So it's going to be interesting to see if the 78-0014, if they are able to... It looks like there might be an issue for Brad. He starts to be slowing down, but...
Either way, it looks like no tires for the 903. That was a quick enough stop to be fuel only. But here's the thing. The 78, the 23, these guys, they are already making the pass, as the 903 and the 906 are just now getting off pit road. That 78's already up to speed, but Tom, that 78 car is alone. I think he probably splash and goed and left everyone else behind him to fend for themselves. He said, screw the draft, screw the help. I'm getting out ahead of all of you guys.
So pit lane time for the 78 was a 38.72. Pit lane time, and we were talking about this before about having the opportunity to make mistakes. Pit lane time for the 906, 42 seconds. So almost 4 seconds difference, and you see that there with the 78 coming out of turn 2 halfway down the backstretch, the 906, the 903 just now into turns 1 and 2. So that's the difference that 4 seconds will make, it coupled with the pit entry time, and also being behind them coming onto pit road as well.
Absolutely, and I think what we saw to Brad Holmes was probably a penalty. Had to come back down. That is going to be Brad Holmes' race, unfortunately. The 77 of Roy Hill III had an issue and is now 13, almost 14 seconds back. Big loser on that sequence, but up front, it's the 78 of Kendall Paul and a lap car, Chris Rose, in the mix, as has been the case for much of the night. That 14 car, third in line, is second place at the moment. Top two in terms of the effective race order are about 8 seconds ahead of anyone else. It's going to come down to this little gaggle right here.
Yep, so a little bit of house cleaning here. So 3 cars currently in the lead pack. 2 of them one of them a couple of laps down. That is the 23 in the middle of this pack right here. The 78 Kendall Paul, currently the race leader. Daniel Scruggs currently in second and running third on the track, as we see a little bit of contact there between the 14 and the 23. And to me, that's the 14 saying, hey, we got 8 laps to go here. Get out of my way.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm the 14, I also want to be careful, because if I hit that 23 and cause a caution, not only are you going to be causing a caution, but you're going to be bringing in everyone else back into the fray, back into the field. And if I'm the 14 car right now, yeah, that lap car is in the way, but I'm feeling real good about the fact that that 78 car is on as much of an island as he is.
Well, you want to talk about an island, you talk about the car in the middle right there, the 23. Couple of laps down, kind of serving as a buffer right now between the 78 and the 14. They're making their way around the lap car up here. But this time by, we're going to see 6 laps to go from Echo Park Speedway.
Next closest car in third place is the 903 of Evans Beach, who is slowly closing that gap, but I don't think it's going to be enough, not unless these guys get a little racy up front. 7.8 seconds and slowly falling in. Oh, contact!
Contact live. That's going to bring out the caution. And Cody,
14.
if you thought we knew how this race was going to end.
That's right.
What was that? What was that thing that I said about Yahtzee before?
Yeah. Don't remind me.
Yeah, I know. Try not to remind me either. We'll take another look at that caution there in just a moment, but that's going to set us up for what I believe will be a green-white checkered here, with just 5 laps to go right now, probably 2 laps under caution, and maybe a green-white checkered.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The 14 car just couldn't stay out of trouble tonight, and just like I had mentioned a lap or two previous, you know, don't want to cause the caution when you're sitting in such a good position, even with the lap car in the way. You had the leader right in front of you, and just they got together, they tangled, and it didn't work out. Let's see if we can get a good replay here of what happened between the two. We've got the 78 being pushed by the 23. He's not shy about bump drafting. That 14 is going to take a look to the inside and just goes for it. Goes for the gap. They make contact and then just has to finish him off right there. I think that's the kind of situation where if you're the 14 car, you got to know who you're racing around. Chris Rose being one of the more aggressive drivers, but you've also got to know that, you know, when you're going to stick a nose in very last second like that, you run that risk, right? So,
well, I mean, I think there's also a lot to be said that, you know, it's to play the opposite side of that, Cody, is that you've got a handful of laps to go, 6, 7 laps to go, and now you got an additional challenge of a lap car kind of preventing you from making a move, because one car could pass one car, but one car is not going to pass 2 cars.
yeah, that's absolutely correct.
So, but the 23 on pit road out here getting some damage. I want to see Daniel Scruggs, currently shown as the race leader. Not entirely sure.
I think he's just coasting ahead of the pace car at the moment for some reason.
Oh, possibly.
It looks like the 78 car of Kendall Paul is going to be in the lead of this race in control, but that 903 and that 906 are now running second and third. The 38 car back up into the picture, running in 4th place. Don't count out Gary Miller just yet.
So,
Gary Miller might have something to say about it.
Take a look at the damage on the 14 here, as we're kind of jumping around underneath this caution with just a handful of laps to go, but damage on the 14 from that contact with the 23 machine. That's some significant damage on the right front. We'll see if he comes down here and uses his roll of flex tape on that right front and comes out of pit road. Still in contention, but while he's doing this, Cody, look who's lining up 2nd and 3rd on this restart.
That's absolutely correct. That's how I got my eye on. It looks like a quick repair used for the 14, so he's going to be back on track with a perfectly clean car. And if you're anyone else on track, that's a dangerous proposition. You got to keep your eyes out for that. But that 903 and that 906 are back in the conversation, assuming they don't have anything slowing them down. They are going to be a force to be reckoned with here. But one thing that is for sure, they are separated at the moment. If I'm the 78, I might not want to get too good of a jump and allow those two to get nose to tail.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about them being in separate lanes, right? The 903 to the outside of row number 1, the 906 to the inside of row number 2. It's going to take a little bit of work. I think they can coordinate it. It's going to take a little bit of work to get them lined up nose to tail to possibly make a move around the 78 machine. But Gary Miller currently running up in 4th on the outside of row number 2. And then my pick, Roy Hill, currently up inside the top 5.
That's right. You're not going to let me forget it if Roy Hill ends up winning this race. I tell you what. So.
I will not.
We'll see how that goes, but the lights are on that pace car. We're coming out of turn number 4. That green flag is ready, and we've got green-white checkered here to the end.
Green-white checker. Barney, the flagman, got that green flag high up in the air. They're going to go into the restart zone, and the field's going to go down and away into turn number 1, side by side. Good jump for the 78 as they come down into turn number 1. The 906, the 903.
Wide.
3 wide entering to turn number 1.
It looks like those two are going to get nose to tail. The 906 ahead of the 903 this time. The 77 back and forth, and Brad Holmes is ready to go.
Look at the gap here, Cody.
This is dangerous for the 78. You're a sitting duck. You can't do anything. They've got to take that run. They've got no choice, but they've got to take that farther route around the outside of the track. Can the 77 get to the 78 quick enough?
This time by, we're going to see the white flag from Echo Park Speedway as we do get it. This time by is the last time by from Atlanta Motor Speedway as they come through. Now the 906, Dustin McMurray, comes through, and he's going to clear by 1, maybe 2 car lengths here, but here comes the 903, Cody.
Don't look now, but the 14 car is back into the conversation. Here comes Daniel Scruggs around the outside with a fixed-up race car through 3 and 4. The 78 goes around off the nose of the 77. They're wrecking behind the 14 on the back of the 903 to the line. It's going to be the 906 car. Dustin McMurray's going to win at Echo Park Speedway.
What a finish. Contact towards the back of the field on the 1 lap to go as we wait for drivers to come up here for the post-race show. We're going to get that started in just a moment, Cody, but let's take a look one more time at the result out here tonight. Following the 14 right now as we try to get set up to take a look. He takes a big look onto the outside, contact behind him. So now it's just a 3-car breakaway. The 906 clear sailing in front of him, but the 14 trying to do something with the 903, not able to, and at the line, the 906 Dustin McMurray comes through.
Absolutely. If that push came any sooner, it might have done it, because that was a really good push from the 14 to the 903. Just not enough time to make it happen, especially at a track as small as this compared to the other drafting tracks. And that was perfectly played by the combination of the 906 and the 903 on that restart. The 906 benefiting from being the lead car out of the two.
Well, Cody, let's step away for just a moment. We're going to grab your top 3, and we'll be back for your full post-race interviews.
All right, we've got 3rd place finisher Daniel Scruggs in the 14 car. You got a copy, Daniel?
Yeah, what's going on?
Well, we saw quite the race here at Echo Park Speedway this evening, and quite the race out of you in the 14 car. I think you were probably the name we probably said the most going through it all, and you had a really good run at the end there after taking that quick repair, getting all the way up through the field, had a shot going through the final couple corners. Just run us through your race and through that finish.
Yeah, no, I hate that I turned Kendall there at the end of the race, but I think we were approaching 6 to go, and as you saw, it was pretty one lane all night. I had to stick my nose where I probably shouldn't have. Just hate that he was collateral damage, and that is what it is. I hate it for him, I really do, but yeah, it was a crazy race overall. Really happy with the finish. Seems like I stepped on some toes tonight, but what can you do? That's racing.
Racing indeed. Well, either way, you put on a show, made it interesting, and that was probably the best 11-car field race at a plate track I've ever seen. So props to you guys. It was a good first broadcast for me to be a part of. Who do you got to thank for the effort tonight?
Man, I want to thank my girlfriend for allowing me to, not spend the night with her to be able to do this, first of all. Other than that, I'd like to thank the Lord for blessing me with another day on this earth and, all these good guys I get to race with. So I'm super thankful.
All right, sounds good. Good job on a 3rd place tonight. That's Daniel Scruggs, driver of the 14 car.
All right, kicking Daniel out of here is the 906 of Dustin McMurray. Continues his celebration down on pit road. Believe he's making his way down into victory lane. Still taking a look. I am out of breath, Cody. I'm running up and down pit road looking at the 906. I can't find anybody from the 906 camp. I think they've started the party without me. So
they have, yeah.
We'll see if we can't find them here in the next minute or two. But what a great race we saw out here tonight, Cody. Let's take a look while we give them an opportunity to come through, and we'll take a look at your finishing results from tonight's race of the Friggy Diggy Racing League at Echo Park Speedway. Dustin McMurray comes through as the race winner out here tonight. Evans Beach comes home in second, and the top three, well, that's not right, is Gary Miller.
That is not right. iRacing timing and scoring has got something all sorts of weird with the lap counts and everything like that. But now third place is the 14 car of Daniel Scruggs. In fourth we had Gary Miller in the 38 car, and rounding out the top five was Kendall Paul in the 78 after that last lap incident.
Yep, and coming home just outside the top five was my pick, Roy Hill III in the 77 Ford Mustang out there tonight. Good run for the 77. Brad Holmes going to come home in seventh place. Paxton Antrim, what could have been for the 21, comes home in eighth place. Chris Rose and Justin Osman round out the top 10.
And shotgun on the field was the 10 car of Chris Lawrence. Just caught up in too many things early on. Couldn't get back into the event. Couldn't make it happen. But you live and you learn. You move on. Ran as much of the race as he could, and we'll be looking to bounce back next week at the Chicago Street Course.
Chicago Street Course, Cody, and the challenges that place is going to provide for these drivers out here. Is it 14 turns out there or something like that? But a lot of tight 90-degree turns. The only street course on the circuit. That's certainly going to pose a challenge.
It absolutely is, and something not to be lost in this conversation is that we go to Chicago Street Course followed by Sonoma, so we've got 2 consecutive weeks of road course racing. So the drivers who know how to get around a road course, it's really time for them to shine. They're going to have this part of the calendar circled, and if you're somebody who doesn't really like road courses, if you have a hard time over there, these next 2 weeks they're going to be a little grueling to get through.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to 2 road courses back to back out here. But last week at Pocono Raceway, tonight at Echo Park Speedway, you talk about 4 very different challenges, 4 very different tracks.
That is absolutely correct. It's a real fun middle of the season here in FDRL. But I tell you what, I think the 906 and the 903 probably partying together wherever they've gone. We cannot reach anyone to get an interview with those two. So the party's already started well ahead of us.
Well, hold on, Cody. Listen, they don't give me the hard card for nothing out here. I was able to make my way down to the 903, to the 903 pit stall. Took me a little while. I told you I was out of breath. But the 903 Evans Beach coming home second place out here tonight. Evans, what a great run you had out here tonight from Echo Park Speedway. What a kind of bring us through that race and your kind of last laps there.
Appreciate that. Well, the first 2 stages went pretty well. They stayed in line and I was able to get full stage points, but the last green flag stop, I think I was a little slow on the apron there. I didn't really take full advantage, so left us behind on track. I did get lucky with a caution, but I think starting in second kind of ruled me out of a win there at the end.
Well, we saw you and the 906 working together all race long. Was this your first time using that kind of open pit road down there on the entry of 3?
So, earlier this week I had ran maybe 2 or 3 races, and I think done a total of 1 green flag stop. So basically, yeah.
All right. Well, you guys were able to make it work when it mattered the most after 130 laps out here tonight from Echo Park. So coming home with a solid second place finish out here tonight in that Toyota Camry. So we're going to open up the floor for you, Evans. Anybody you want to thank, say hello to, shout out, the floor is all yours.
Shout out to Sheets Racing League. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, Evans Beach coming home with a strong finish out here tonight. And Cody, I've got no, I don't anymore. I don't know. I can't see anybody. So
yeah, it's all kinds of every which way. Who knows where they've gone to a channel we can't see, but
there's Dustin. I think you got Dustin, don't you?
I do indeed. Race winner tonight at Echo Park Speedway, the 906 in that progressive Toyota. Dustin McMurray, how's it going? How are you feeling after getting it done here tonight?
Man, I'm excited. I was pretty fired up after we crossed the start finish. I wasn't sure coming to start finish if if Beach was gonna go for it or if he was gonna be with me. But definitely thrilled.
Absolutely. One question I've got from up here in the booth: are you in the 903 of Dustin Beach? Are you or Dustin Beach, Evans Beach? Are you guys teammates at all, or just working really well together?
I would definitely lean more on the teammate side. We're trying to hide it a little bit in that race since it's our first one. That way we could build some trust, but we're more so teammates.
And I tell you what, you guys worked together better than any other pair that was out there on track tonight, and it paid off, especially at the end. Run us through that final restart, that green and white checkered, making it happen. You guys were in different lanes, and you had to get hooked up if you wanted to make something work together. You were able to. You were able to stay ahead of the incident on the final lap and just coming to the line. Run us through, how you pick and chose what you did there and how it wound up for you.
Well, the communication between me and Beach wasn't great. I didn't tell him I was ready to go outside. The run was there, so I had to take it coming to the white, and I stayed up high that last lap, hoping to drag him with me and keep those lanes side by side, and hopefully him still prevail in the end. But just keeping them side by side that last lap was crucial and was the necessary move, and luckily it worked out.
Oh, it absolutely did. Well, a great way to come out here and make a statement tonight, Dustin. Who do you got to thank for your effort tonight?
Man, I've got to thank the teammate out back. We've talked about it in this interview. We worked together all race. I got in some trouble 2 different times, once by myself and then once me and this other car got together, but it all worked out. So I'm thankful.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, everybody. Your race winner tonight, the 906 Dustin McMurray here at Echo Park Speedway.
Cody, as the crowd begins to make their way out, they try to make their way down onto into the cars, make their way back home. I believe there's a Buc-ee's that opened up not too far from here, so I'm gonna make my way out to Buc-ee's. And Cody, maybe it was great to have you out here on a Wednesday night. Thanks so much for joining me. Maybe we'll get to see you on some more of these broadcasts.
Yeah, we might just maybe up here or maybe on track, depending on if it's Sonoma or not. I guess we'll see what the future holds. But enjoy your trip to Buc-ee's, and looking forward to see what this league can put on in the second half of the season.
All right, from Echo Park Speedway, have a great night, and thanks for tuning in. Get the Beaver Nuggets.